Welcome to the Rondinelli Project. I'm Mr. R. I'm back with part 2 as promised. Here it is. Let's take a look. This is where we left off in the last video where I was waxing the mold. This is where we are going to actually cast the fish. And what I'm doing now is taking PVA with an airbrush and I am coating the inside of the mold, the entire inside of the mold. You can brush this on, but it's better to airbrush it. You want a thin, light coat. This is to help separate the actual cast from the mold. And this can be challenging at times. So you want to make sure you get those 3 coats of wax and a good coat of PVA. And that's what I am doing right here. Once that is done, I'm going to mix up my gel coat, which in this case I use white. They make different colors. And this stuff is nasty. You need to wear a respirator. It tends to be a lot more vapors in gel coat than in fiberglass resin. But what I'm doing is I'm coating the body up to the fins, which are the dorsal fin, the caudal fin, and the anal fin. You don't want to get any gel coat on those fins because you want your fins to be transparent. And I do this to both halves and set them aside to set. And this is what actually gets painted once the cast is out of the mold. I use a marine grade gel coat. And you want to make sure that you get clear up to the edge. You want to put it in there fairly thick. If you have a little extra, it's okay. You dump it in there. But you want to be careful not to get it on the fins. That's important. And remember, everything is based on the species that you are replicating. Once all of your gel coat is on the body, it's time to let those set. And that takes anywhere from a half hour to 2 hours. It just depends on temperature. I'm mixing up now just fiberglass resin, and this is a small fish, so I don't need to put like matting in there and to save material. What I'm doing is I'm getting ready to put these 2 halves together. So I'm mixing my resin, I'm covering the entire mold out to the markers. And I'm going to put a block of wood inside so I can anchor this replica to the driftwood with the rest of the other crappies in my work in progress project. I'm getting ready to put these together, and I have to apologize. I thought the camera was running. It actually wasn't, so this is going to jump to the mold completed, and I wanted to show you how I put that together and put the clamps on. But I think you'll get the idea. You have to clamp side A and side B together, and it's kind of messy. And there's the clamps together. You didn't get to see me putting them on, but you get to see me taking them off. And once you take them off, you have to separate the mold. And this is tricky because you don't want to damage the fins or the body that's in there and the gel coat. So you got to take a screwdriver, find the seam, work yourself around until it releases. And this is a curved fish, so sometimes that just makes it harder, but it will release. Don't go too far. Make sure you know where the fins start and end and all of that. And eventually you'll be able to release the mold and you'll actually see your creation of what you positioned and how everything turned out at that point. And instead of jumping through this, I wanted to show you that it takes a little bit. There, it released, and you can see one side. You're looking at the right side of that crappie. You can see the curve, and what I'm doing now is I'm carefully working the mold to release the other side of the fish. One side always releases easier than the other, and you just have to experience this, but you have to be very careful around the fins. There, the whole thing came out. You can see the seam, you can see the fins, and now we have to do some Dremel work to bring this to life. Now the fins are heavier because I cut up fiberglass matting into what they call chop, and I added it to the fiberglass, and I made sure when I coated the fins, I put that on the fins so they were very heavy. And you want that so that you don't accidentally break the fins getting it out of the mold, because if you do that, you have to start all over. I mean, it's pretty much done. What I'm doing, though, is using a Dremel tool and grinding away all the excess, the overlay, and shaping the fins based on the species. And you want to reference, of course, pictures if you need to. I've done so many of these, I just know what the shape is, but you have to be careful. The vibration from the Dremel tool can crack your fins or break them right off. So this is a kind of a nerve-wracking part if you're spending all this time to do this, and it can be ruined in a matter of a second. So you want to take your time. There's different tool settings and different bits that you can use to shape everything. And once again, that'll just take practice. It's something you have to experience. I can teach you just about anything, but I can't learn it for you. You'll just have to experience it yourself. You can kind of watch and get an idea, but you want to be very, very careful. And I will also make sure that I am grinding down the seam so that you can't see that when it's finally hand painted. There's an enormous amount of prep work involved before you get to the painting stage. And this is just part 2 of a series. I'm not doing the whole fish. I'm not going to show you how I paint this one. I have a playlist that has a complete tutorial where I show that. But I'm doing the spines now and cutting down through the sharp things that jab you. That's another place you have to be very careful. The vibration can break those off, and then it kind of ruins everything. Remember, it's easy to take away, very difficult to add. So it's something that you just have to practice. But eventually, everything will get into shape, and this creates a lot of dust too, so I really recommend that you wear a respirator or a mask of some sort, like maybe like a COVID type mask if you want to, but they make the little mask you can put on. You don't want to breathe that fiberglass dust into your lungs. Now, I know this part of the video is kind of long, but I didn't want to cut away. I wanted you to see exactly everything you need to do to get the dorsal fin, the caudal fin, which is the tail, and the anal fin, which is underneath the fish, ready for painting. Something else I wanted to mention was I use an emery board to help sand down and shape certain parts of the fins. It's that final touch that smooths things out and makes the fins look realistic. But there's also fins we haven't talked about. The 2 pectoral fins, which are on the side of the fish, and the 2 pelvic or ventral fins that are underneath the bottom of the fish to help it maneuver. Those get removed and are cast separately and are cut out in the same process here with the Dremel, and then they're reattached later in the process of creating a replica. So that's a whole nother process where you cast the fins and then you reattach those. Same process, but you have to do, that's a step that I didn't cover here because I'm just showing the mold and how you cast the body, the caudal fins, the anal fin, and the dorsal fin, which are all in line with the body. You couldn't get the pectoral fins or the ventral fins out of the mold if you didn't remove them first. That's why they're removed. You want to keep working on your fins until you're satisfied that you've achieved that realistic look. I'm changing bits now so that I can work on the seam of the fish, smooth it up, check it a little bit later. This is kind of a back and forth process. So you want to get anything that's just needs cleaned up, isn't smooth. You can see the eye detail, you can see the operculum in the mouth. All that's necessary, but this is starting to look pretty good, and it'll be, ready for a wash here, and we get all the dust off of it and take a look at how it looks. So what I'll do is I'll stop it right here. You can see that this is looking not bad. You can see the lateral line, you can see the scales, and this is probably ready for a wash. And just like in part 1, you take some Dawn dish detergent and a toothbrush, This is all waterproof, so you don't have to worry about getting it wet. And you clean it all off because the PVA is on there, and it's kind of a purplish color. And once that all comes off, you'll be able to see the scale detail and the fin detail. And you can see how the fins are becoming transparent. And that's how you get a cast out of a mold. There's still more work to be done, but that's the basic idea. And just to show you, like I did in the first video, this is the work in progress, the project I'm working on, showing you that exact cast after I finished painting it and attached it to this display. And this is where I decided to place it. And I'll keep adding to it. I have one particular crappie that I caught last fall. It weighed 2.5 pounds, and you're getting a look at it here. And I think I'll do a video of this reproduction, but that ought to look pretty good on that display. That's how I do my casts for fish replicas. There were some people that wanted to see that. I wanted to complete part 2. I wanted to get in the studio today and get that done. If you're into the art side of what I do, the fish replica tutorial is waiting. It's in a playlist. I appreciate you sharing the outdoors with me today. From the woods to the water. Until next time, I'm Mr. R. Hey, stay close to nature. My niche is a lifestyle, not a topic. We gone.